going on at 170 pounds? I gotta tell you, this is a really weird one. Were you guys ever kids and maybe your dad told you something? He said, this is what we're gonna do. And a little bit later, you circled back, you came back to maybe a couple weeks later, even a month or so, and you say, hey, Dad, we gotta re-talk about that. And your dad goes, we can't. I said, this is what we're gonna do. We have to go through with it. And you're kind of looking around going, yeah, Dad, but that was just you and me in the room. Nobody knows that you said that, which is why I'm back here, just you and me, to see if you could switch your opinion there. It's not a matter of saving face. This isn't an ego issue. No one knows you said it. But have you ever been in a spot like that or something similar? Where somebody, I've already said, and they have this audience that does not exist. No one's looking at them. No one's talking about it. No one cared when they said it then. Nobody cares now that they said it then. It's a nothing. But they don't see it that way. Have you been in a spot like that? Because when I look at 170 pounds, and I must fully disclose to you, I don't know what's going on there. I just have guesses. And if I was to tell you what I do know, what I remember in March of this year, Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards went and fought. And the day before at the weigh-ins, it gets revealed that Colby Covington is in attendance. This fight took place in England. That he's trained up, he's shaped up, he's licensed up, he's on weight, and he is officially the backup fighter. So on Friday, you find out, well, I mean, as much of a stretch that it is, Colby could be fighting tomorrow. One of these two guys for the title, right? Backup fighter. You guys understand what it means. But it was exciting. And Kamaru had kind of done like a no media tour. It appeared that he really buckled down and was focused on the fight. And then Leon is just not doing media. It was a big deal that Colby was there. And you kind of wished as media that you would have been told this ahead of time. Hey, why did we keep this a secret? We've been scratching and clawing for somebody to help us with this card. You've got the ace of spades right there. I mean, right, it was one of these things. So when it was done, I just took it to Friday at weigh-ins, but when it was done Saturday night, Leon closed the book on Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. He's ready to move on. Dana announces that it will be Colby. Colby's here. Colby's in shape. Colby's licensed. Colby will be next. And Leon says no. And he didn't really say a reason. I mean, he didn't say, like, I think he's too tough or I think that's too hard of a fight. He didn't say those things. My interpretation was he was annoyed with Colby as a person and just wasn't going to do it for him. And that's fine. Like, I'm not second guessing him for that. I'm sharing with you going back to March and having guys that's very tough to get a dialogue with in the first place. This was my understanding of that. And time went on. And there was other guys within the division. Belal Muhammad comes to mind. There was other guys within the division trying to get that spot. And Leon wanted to give it to him. Like, there was a little bit of time that went on. So March is when the fight was, that April, maybe even a little bit into May. Leon was still saying things like, it's not going to be Colby. I'm not going to do it. And the UFC never budged. And then we find out it's going to be Leon and Colby, right? Story always ends that way, but it finally gets revealed to us, which is a piece of the puzzle that always has to come into place. And we never get a date. Closest thing we got is around 2 months ago, Schmo and Helen said Colby and Leon is either going to be in October or November. I mean, it was either going to go to Fight Island in Abu Dhabi or it was going to go to Madison Square Garden in November. So Colby came out and said, we're going to fight in December. They can't put me on the same card as Jon Jones because I will humiliate him at press conferences, which I thought was interesting. I thought, okay, hey, there's a door here because Colby's right. Like, there would actually be some drama. They might be putting him on that card. But apparently New York is shipped up and everything's going just fine. So it still leaves you with that December date. If those two are even fight, like, that's one thing about it that isn't locked down. Everybody has announced that that's the plan. But Leon's manager came out of me just a week ago and said, yeah, things are great. Everything's, hey, we got this. And so you think he's about to make an announcement, and he says, it'll be November or December. Yeah, it will. Or January or February or March. Or like, we can just keep doing this. It'll be on a Monday or Tuesday. Or maybe a Wednesday or Thursday. Or a Friday or Saturday is more. I mean, it was one of these things where you have this whole interview, you have this big reveal, and the reveal is what we started with, which is we don't know anything more than before we started. So I still believe it. I still think they're going to fight in December. That theory gets weakened when you're armed with the fact that Sugar Sean is waiting to make an announcement and specifically called for the December date. I bring all of this to you. Like, none of this is new, but it is a matter of the byproducts that happen when everybody stands around and waits for that fight. And it's not wonderful for Leon. This is not where I want to give Leon a hard time. By the way, just because he's fighting Colby, like that's not what this is. It is not good when you're the champion of the world, you've been out since March, and nobody's demanding that you come back. Very few people are even asking that you come back. And my fear, much like the example that I led with, like maybe your dad or somebody says something and they say, I can't go back on it. If Leon said something, and maybe he did, but if Leon said something and is worried he's going to go back on it, nobody heard. I just gave you the timeline that the world knows. Leon wins the fight. Leon goes to press conference. Leon says, I'm not going to do it. 2 months go by, and through extremely small media outlets, Leon campaigns for somebody else, then goes radio silent. Schmo announces it's all done. Manager confirms it's all done. We all sit around. Like, there is nothing else to the story. If Leon thinks there is, if he said something, he went on this campaign, nobody heard it. It's the tree falls in a wood scenario all over again. Don't get locked into that. There's a problem if you're the champion of the world in a perennial division, the very division that Georges St. Pierre made the highest drawing division in the sport, that very division. And nobody is saying, when are you going to defend? Why haven't you defended? Are you sick? Are you hurt? Are you angry? Is it the company? All the things you speculate about. So you have Belal Muhammad, who also became a number one contender. Colby's the number one contender. Belal's also good. It's a very new time in the sport. It's not the first time that happened. We're doing that a couple of times. We have multiple number one guys. Fair enough. But what Belal would need to cash that in is for those two to first fight. Like, before we even talk to Belal, or before we do anything, before we bring in the sparring partners, we book the hotels, before we do absolutely one single step in that direction, we need Leon and Colby to fight. So it puts Belal in a very hard spot where the organization is going, yes, everything we told you is good. It's good. It's true. He's like, well, hey, man, in best case, I'm looking at midway through 24 right now. Yeah. I mean, that's a separate conversation. Everything we told you is good, unless you don't want it to be. If you want to get back in there, you may hand the golden ticket back. You have the power and the control. We're letting you. So you see where it gets a little bit weird. We're going, oh, God, all right. It's the same spot Michael Chandler's in with Conor McGregor. Like, the fight, the numbers, everything. I earned it, the TV show. Everything's wonderful, but we don't have a date of the fight. The single absolute most important part of any contract is the date. I tell you guys, I'm going to give you $1 billion, but then you find out that's $1 a year over the next billion years, right? You see where that's a problem. Nothing trumps the date. All these things are going to happen. When? Okay. So, Belal has now booked himself a grappling match that's in Abu Dhabi, which is great. That tells me a few things, right? Tells me that Belal knows he needs to go through training camp. Tells me he knows he needs to go through some kind of a weigh-in process, even if they've spotted him a few kilograms. Tells me he knows he's got to get in the bag. He's got to feel those nerves. He's got to make that walk. He's got to compete. I like it. I like it a lot, but it also tells me that he does not have inside scoop as to when those two guys are going to fight. I don't think Belal is the number one contender, knows anything more than the manager, who knew 2 months of the year. I don't tease the manager. He's a really great guy, by the way. I'm just sharing for you that I've never seen an interview before about something that when you get to the something, they're I just haven't seen that. Yeah, they're going to fight, absolutely. And I'm here to tell you that it's coming up. I've just never seen that before. 170 pounds. Very interesting. Very bizarre. Ian Gary's red hot, gets called out by 3, 4, 5 guys. Doesn't respond to any of them. They're all ranked and beautiful names. Hi, guys. Is that not what you want to do? Do you not want to fight those guys? What do you, right? It's one of these things where it's a little bit hard to know exactly what's going on. For a division that used to be king, if I was in that division, and my division as a whole, not just myself, my division as a whole got as little of headlines as this one does, I would tell you, I would kick it into gear, or I would leave that nearly dead division